Celia Cavalli. Welcome to the Soccer Queens podcast.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Erica. I know that we've been talking so much, and I just feel like we vibe so much. And so I'm super excited to be coming on your podcast.
I am so looking forward to this conversation. And I first found your Instagram page through Cynthia Monteleone, who has been on this show many times before. And she was like, you got to check out this chick's page because the nutrition memes, like all of it is just so hilarious. And she's on the same page with a lot of the nutrition misinformation going around. So that's why I was like, I need to have her on the podcast to just share her journey and just how you found like vibrant and thriving health, because as women we definitely have been lied to for many years, and sadly we all finally learned in our 30s, but thank goodness we learned. So let's just have you walk us through your journey of chronic illness, skin issues as a teenager. I know a lot of girls listening are interested in hearing about that, how you healed that. And yeah, let's go from there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So first off, the memes always get everybody, and then I draw you in with my funny memes, and then it's all like science stuff. But yeah, so I guess this goes back a really long ways. I wasn't extremely sick as a kid, but I had symptoms. Like I feel like we all can kind of relate. Like I had the bloating stomach. I never had a flat stomach ever in my entire life, like until recently. I mean, I was always like the Michelin, I was skinny, but I was like had puff. And I played sports in high school, all throughout school, so elementary into middle school and then high school. And I was always very self-conscious about my skin because I had an autoimmune condition. I didn't know it at the time, obviously. Celiac and lupus. So those were my two diagnoses later on, down the road, but they affect the skin. Like that was one of the first manifestations I really saw. So I would get white bumps all over my arms, like these like puffy white bumps, very common in lupus. And I had horrible cystic acne. So you can imagine, for the girls who are listening to this, being in high school and having really bad cystic acne and wanting to cover that up, during practices, you'd be running and sweating it off. I had back in the day, you guys may not know this, but us millennials can relate. We had the thick CoverGirl or the Maybelline, the thick, it came in a little screw up thing. It looks like like an eraser or a lipstick, and you'd put that on and it would just be so cakey. And I remember, I was bullied for it. I was made fun of in high school for it. And a lot of those people follow me now and ask me for health advice. But it was really tough, really hard growing up. So I actually went through so many different diets growing up trying to feel better. My mom was really big into South Beach diet. She has diabetes type 2. And so she was trying a ton of other things to feel better herself, and to lose weight. Her main thing was losing weight, but mine wasn't necessarily losing weight. It was just feeling better. I had low energy. I was that kid in high school who was eating cookies, pizza, all the food that they have in that cafeteria line is so toxic. And I was showing it, my skin was showing it. I was losing hair. It was awful. So at 21, I got really, really, really into like lower carb eating. So I got into the bodybuilding world at 19. At 21, I was, doing the bodybuilder diet. All my autoimmune went into remission with that diet. So I was eating low carb, mainly meat. Of course, it was lean meat, not super high fat because it's the bodybuilding world, but I was, had a flat stomach for the first time in my life and I felt good. And, then, in my later 20s, I went off that diet, found veganism, which completely just destroyed everything. So I went vegan at 26. By 28, so I was vegan for about a year and a half. By 28, my skin was completely like I had to go in and get treatments done because the cystic acne was so freaking bad that like my skin was it was scaling and peeling and it was horrible. But not just that, but at 28, I actually had my first vertigo experience, which if you've never had vertigo, it is horrifying. It completely stole my life. So that was the first symptom, the major symptom of lupus that I had, and then it was all downhill from there. So after that, it was like a rapid digression into the point where I couldn't walk, I couldn't drive, I couldn't do anything. I was 28. I was in the prime of my life, or supposed to be in the prime of my life, and I was bedridden. I could barely walk. I mean, I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel my arms. It was very, very dark and very bleak, and I lived with that off and on for 5.5 years. Part of the way through that, I actually found carnivore, and I'll explain how I found it. I feel like I'm talking so much, but I was having a lot of neurological symptoms, where I went to an epilepsy center because I was having tremors, and went to a seizure center to get treatment help for what I was going through. And the doctors couldn't find anything wrong. They hooked up the electrodes to my head. I went through MRIs, CT scans, everything, blood work every single month for, years. It was horrible. But I was going through this, and I started Googling. I was like, I'm stuck in bed. Let me Google and research and look on YouTube for something to help neurological. So I don't know why I thought of this, but I typed in neurological dysfunction and food. And immediately found Dr. Peter Osborne, who talks about grains. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go grain free. Went grain free. I got a little bit better. I was able to start walking, moving, and I was like, there is hope. But I still felt really awful. I was still having a ton of autoimmune issues. And it wasn't until 2021, like I kept diving into all this research and looking at all this stuff. Like literally, my entire days were consumed with researching this. And by 2021, I finally found Dr. Anthony Shafee, How to Carnivore, Simon Lewis, and Ken Berry, and the whole squad, and decided, what do I have to lose? I jumped into Anthony's private group with Anthony, or with Simon and him, and I went carnivore, and that was the first time in my entire life that my symptoms were completely gone. And so I knew right then, I was like, food is massively, majorly huge, but I didn't fully understand like the chemistry behind all this stuff. So once I learned that, I was like, this is amazing, and more people need to know about this so that they can perform better. Because after that, I went on to running marathon or half marathons. So I started off with 5Ks and then half marathons, and was placing in every single race. So every single race I was getting first, second, third, in my age group. So to go from being bedridden, unable to walk, to winning 5Ks, half marathons is insane. Like I don't know any other person who's like gone through that bad of a disability to being able to come back so quickly. But it was really amazing, and I have everything to thank to the carnivore community and to the people who I've learned and mentored from.
Wow, that just makes me so happy that you just turned your health around. And I think for a lot of people listening, this is really new information because, we're blasted with the traditional nutritional guidelines like, the food pyramid or myplate.gov. And it's going to be pretty individual, especially if you have autoimmune, and a lot of teenage girls, like, everything seems, like, fine and dandy now, like, you can kinda have what you want like you did when you were a teenager, and you didn't really know how this would amplify in your 20s and in your 30s, until things, like, got really bad, and a lot of girls and people in general do suffer these silent autoimmune issues, but they just kinda go through life, "Oh, I feel, like, pretty good, there's some symptoms here and there," but then, like, things go haywire, and it's like, "Oh, wow, I really need to unlearn everything I've been told," and things that are maybe causing a reaction in me where I am bedridden, or my skin breaks out, or my hormones are a mess, so I really appreciate you sharing that story. Now, I had a question. Why did you decide to go vegan after your bodybuilding era? Was it for like moral reasons, or were you just trying to like experiment? Maybe this will make my skin better. Like what was the captivation with that diet?
Oh my gosh. I don't really fully remember, but I did live in the Los Angeles area. And if you know anything about California and LA in particular, it's like the Erewhon era. It's like the vegan smoothies, and everyone's, oh, you know, plant-based this, plant-based that. And you know what? Actually, I do remember. So I owned a spiritual boutique. I had crystals and all of that. And I was like really big into that community. And I still love crystals. I have them all over my house, but I was super big into that community, and that was a very big like thing in that yoga world, spiritual world is go vegan because it will make your body cleaner and pure, and you're not gonna have any of these plant or these animal hormones. And it's such a proper like, it's just such a lie, but back then, I thought, "Oh, well, green juices are so healthy, and, we think we're so healthy drinking these spinach concoctions that don't even taste good." I mean, you've said that you don't even like the spinach, like, the kale and the spinach smoothies that these young girls are like, they think that it's healing them and helping them, and the truth is that it's not. I mean, it's really just not. I mean, if you wanna eat it every now and then, that's fine, but I was drinking, like, a bag of spinach for breakfast, and I'm like, looking back, I'm just like, "Oh, dear child." Like, I wish I could go back in time and tell you what I know now, because, I mean, if I could even go back in time to middle school, knowing what I know now, it would have been so much better. I mean, you and I have talked about how our performance could have been better, our everything could have been better had we known, to eat a more, whole food diet and more animal-based diet with, the lower carbohydrates. And I think that, some people do need some vegetables and stuff here and there, but you don't need the processed vegetables, like what's pushed in the sports world with like the veggie straws and like all this stuff with the canola oils. It's like it's so damaging to our DNA, and I think a lot of people just don't realize how damaging it is until they get sick, until they end up bedridden. And it's like by that point, you're clawing your way out of HELL to get back to a point of just normalcy that can take years and years and years. And it's devastating. I will tell you, from someone who's been chronically ill for an extended period of time, there's PTSD that comes with it. There's a lot of emotional baggage that comes with it. Am I going to get sick again? And it's sad because like I talked to some of my friends who've gone through chemo and cancer, and they say the same thing, that they deal with that PTSD of what they went through, and it's like this waiting to get sick again, and it takes a long time to undo that. And so if there's one thing I can say to anybody who's young, who's listening to this, which I hope there are because you're a genius and you're amazing and this podcast is incredible, is that take care of your health. Like, really prioritize feeling good through nutrition, like proper nutrition, so you don't have to go through all of that stuff that I had to go through. Like, it was awful, and I don't wish that upon anybody. So I'm like, if you guys can take care of yourselves and treat your body like a Birkin, or treat your body like something that you love, your Bentley Birkin, whatever it is that you're about, your soccer ball that's like your prize soccer ball. Like, if you can treat your body like a temple, so to say, it's like you won't have to go through being super sick more than likely.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great message. And I've had Cynthia on here as well. And in terms of the carbohydrates, when we say quote unquote low carb, that means comparable to what's being recommended, because what's being recommended is sometimes like 250 to 300 grams a day. Some girls have to eat that all for breakfast, 300 grams for breakfast, which you actually don't have to do that. There's more than one ways to skin a cat and have good sport performance if you do become animal based and fat adapted. That is possible, which is why I always refer out to Cynthia or people like Michelle Hearn so that the transition's smooth. But it's just like really interesting that you say, look, put your health first, and then everything else just follows. Your performance, your skin, your beauty, your energy, health always comes first. And I think like some girls think that's just like so hard to achieve with sport performance. But, as you've proven, as Cynthia and Michelle have proven, it is possible to be a really high performing athlete and having animal based and not all these like sugary snacks like that are being recommended. And what we're saying is definitely not mainstream. And look, if that works for you, whatever, it works for Michael Phelps. Okay, great. I can see that argument. But how much better can you feel? And for girls, especially with menstrual disorders running rampant, like polycystic ovarian syndrome, that recommendation of carbs probably not the best idea. All that sugar, probably not the best idea because you have to treat that like a pre-diabetic. So, I mean, we could get into the whole hormonal discussion. Did you see any changes in your menstrual cycle, your mood? I always get curious when I talk to women, and it seems to be pretty positive.
Yes, major. So first off, I just want to say, when it comes to sports and athletics, when I run these races, a lot of these people are eating the goo packets, which is just straight sugar. It's like the worst thing you can put in your body. So it's bad for your teeth too. Like I'm gonna just admit it. I'm a pretty vain person. I want to look as young as possible for as long as possible. I don't want to lose teeth. I don't want to be all wrinkly. So my whole thing is, like the beauty bible of food, like eating for beauty, eating for wellness. But I'll be running these races and I have like a little baggie of like chicken skins or like the fried chicken skins or like steak, like I'll bring like the carnivore snacks and I'll just be eating that while I'm running. And people think it's so funny. And I'm like, I love it. Like I love the attention because I'm like, people think it's unusual. And it just to me, I'm like, it's hilarious. Like people are just like, what is she doing? Like, what is this? But my hormones actually were super out of whack. I had really low progesterone prior to going this direction with my eating. I have all my lab work from 2019 to today, and that's a lot of lab work. Like it's literally like a stack this big. But my hormones have gotten better. The only thing that really changed was my LDL and HDL went up, which is kind of normal. Now they're saying that that's actually a good thing. Like the fitter you are, the higher your cholesterol. But I digress. Like you can look into that. I'm not a doctor, but look into that on your own. But really everything just evened out, everything got better on this lifestyle. And then I noticed my menstruation is so much better. Like this is like night and day difference. On the vegan diet, it was 7 days of heavy, heavy, heavy bleeding, like horrible bleeding. I'd have cramps for the 7 days prior. So I had low mood swings, anxiety, depression, and then cramping, like severe cramping, where it was like you almost feel down for the count. Like I don't take ibuprofen, I don't do any of the over the counter stuff. I try and just kind of see what my body's doing and feel it out and just let it do its thing. Which I don't know if that's great or not, but it's a lot of suffering. Don't really recommend it. Like I would just kind of weather through it. And I realized I'm spending half the month. I mean, that's 14 days down for the count. Like that's a lot of time. Now my periods are 3 to 4 days. It's super, super on par. I know exactly when it's going to come. It's every 28 days, like, or whatever it is, like clockwork. It's on my little app, my Garmin app, and I know exactly when I'm going to get it. I only get like a little bit of like light pressure right before it happens. It's literally like that. And then it happens. And then it's 3 days of like a mild, the second day is usually a little worse, but it's a mild period. It's not bad at all. And my hormones are great. My OBGYN, so we're actually planning on getting pregnant this year. And my OBGYN said, you are probably my top like patient because of how you eat. She's like, you don't do any alcohol, none, nothing. She's like, you're literally so good about this. She's like, no, it's no wonder to me that your period is super on point. Your hormones are on point. She's like, I have no doubt you're going to get pregnant pretty quickly. And she's actually herself, she eats how I eat. So it was funny that we ended up, our worlds collided. But she did it because she had autoimmune as well. So it's been a really interesting journey, really interesting journey, but the hormones completely changed, like completely changed.
Now, what about your fat intake? So I know a lot of women and girls are fearful of fat. What has been that experience for you, and has it helped your energy as well?
Yeah, I love this question because growing up, my mom is still scared of fat. Like we went out for dinner the other day and she's like, "You're putting butter on your steak." Like, and then I was like, "Just try it. It's so good." And she's like, "I can't eat butter. Butter's like, so she's coming around. But yeah, I never really ate high fat until my early 20s when I first went kind of more keto, like I was in that keto world. But I wasn't doing it the right way. I was still doing keto diet products, like the chips and cookies and things that are keto, which isn't proper keto. I didn't do the whole foods based really. So, eating the higher fat, like switching to just doing whole foods, like not putting anything in my body that's more than one ingredient, has been a game changer. But eating like butter and having the high fat steaks is really, it's helped me feel so much better. Like my energy levels are better, my sleep is better, my skin is better. And I really truly think that higher fat equals more beauty. You know, it plumps the skin, it gives the skin radiance. I have like pretty much I don't want to say it's like a six pack, but you can see the abdominals. Like I eat so much fat every day. Like I'm munching sticks of butter and I literally look pretty shredded. It's not, fat is nothing to be scared of. It's the fat when combined with sugar. It's the fat when combined with processed carbohydrates that is the problem. I mean, even butter with vegetables is like not an issue. Like if you're going to fry some fajitas, throw some butter in there. Don't use the canola oil. Like use real butter and some sea salt. It tastes so much better, you know? It's just a whole unlearning of the whole low fat thing and a adoption of higher fat, low to no sugar.
No, I love what you said about the skin and how fat like does plump it up and really like getting those like essential omega-3 fatty acids is super helpful for calming that skin inflammation. Now, I don't know if you had this experience, but for so many years, like I thought like veggies were going to clear my skin. And then I later found out they were the problem. So, like, it was just, like, such a crazy thing to, like, see because, like, as soon as I, like, cut them out and then, like, brought them back in, rosacea flare, acne, and I was like, "Wait, it's been the plants all along?" Did you have that experience? And I'm not saying, cut out all veggies, but some people can really have a reaction to, especially if you are autoimmune and have skin issues and even, like, mental health issues too.
Oh yeah, the vegetables immediately. So I am one of those people where I'm kind of like the Michaela Petersons or the Anthony Shafees, where I am so sensitive that even pepper on steak can make me feel like absolutely awful, like completely awful. If I have it, I actually do feel hungover the next day. So I will feel sick the next day. I can tell if I've had, you know, too much too much of something the next day. So for me, I noticed that spinach was one of the worst for skin. Spinach and kale, those two were the worst. I had a green smoothie this past summer. I was going to a convention thing and it's for real estate and I picked up a green smoothie on the way into the auditorium. It was one of the big, the 32 ounce, like so healthy, cost you like $30, crazy. And I started getting like my skin started patching up with red. Like it was like it slowly started creeping up. My neck, it was like completely like broken out red, like red patches everywhere. My skin on my face started turning red. And the next day into the following week, it was just broken blood vessels. It was horrible. And I don't know if you've seen my reels on Instagram where I actually had diet like my blood vessels in my eyes were breaking open all the time. But I'm convinced that was from the vegetables and the processed food was just completely, I mean, I was having bloody noses that would last like projectile bleed and last for like 3 hours. I mean, it was really bad. So I think that they weaken the blood vessels and I think that they can cause, the skin to have issues, like definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people can be very sensitive to plants, and then everyone else can just have a little bit at a time and be okay. And some people have to abstain altogether. So, as we're talking, everyone, you just have to really know yourself. And this is a long journey to figure out what your body needs and
Mm.
what you are reacting to. And for us too, it took till we were basically like 20s, 30s. So it can take some time, but it's good to start thinking about it now and kind of experimenting because your health really matters and you deserve to move every day, have clear skin, wake up feeling energized, play soccer with strength and speed and power. And it's like we wish we knew a lot of this information as teenagers. Now, in terms of body image, because you kind of mentioned some of your struggles, like how are you feeling about your body now? What's your relationship with food? Do you have food freedom?
That's a good question, Erica. So it's really, I mean, I don't think about food. I do not think about food. The only reason why I do think about food is to talk about how bad sugar is on my Instagram. The only reason why I like even think about it is to say like seed oils are garbage, sugar is garbage. But the truth is that I eat when I'm hungry. I don't think about when is my next meal. And it's complete food freedom to not be addicted to sugar, to not be addicted to the drugs that are these processed foods. Processed foods are drugs. Sugar is a drug. It's highly addictive. And I remember growing up, my mom worked in advertising. My mom did a lot for like Target Corporation, and she worked for an ad agency that actually had a huge M&M, like it was like this big M&M dispenser. I won't say the name of the company, but they worked on a lot of food products. And she actually had to quit because she was in one meeting where she was so disgusted because they were talking about the crunch factor and the addiction factor and how to get the population more addicted to this food. Like, how can we make this more addicting? How can we make it more like the perfect amount of salt and additives? And that's where she was like, this is just downright evil. And so she actually quit and then left and went somewhere else and did advertising for clothing, where she was like, I felt morally not aligned and I could not promote something that was ruining the health of the population, you know? And this was at a time where it was like the early 90s. I'm a proud millennial, as I think Erica and I are the same age. Um, and she would bring home like these big bags of chips and these big bags of candy and things like that that she would get for free from her job. And she realized, she's like, this is really not good for me and it's not good for my family. And yeah, I mean, I don't even like, I look at that stuff and I just think immediately, I'm like, bad skin, nasty. Like, there's nothing in me that craves it. Whereas I think the general population and me in a prior self used to miss things like that because you don't realize how bad it is for your skin, for your mental health, for your body, for your movement, for everything. You just think, oh, it's just a slice of cake, or oh, um it's just a Skittle. But when I look at Skittles, I think red dye 40, neurological issues, possible cancer. Like, to me, I just see it in a different way, where I just see like a big toxic burden. So to me, I don't even see it as food. And it actually isn't. If you follow Dr. Robert Lustig, it's actually not even food. It's a food-like product. It can't even be considered food because it has absolutely no nutritional value. It only has issues with it. It's not an actual food. So I don't put things in my body that aren't beneficial to it. I always say to people, I'm like, treat your body like a Birkin. We don't put trash in it. We don't throw trash in our nice things. So why would we put that in our bodies? And I know that there's people listening who are going to be like, oh, but after the game, I want to go get pizza, whatever. That's your own choice. I would say that food freedom is knowing what these foods do to you and then choosing if you want to put that in your body. So will there be a day where I decide, oh, maybe I want to eat a cupcake? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. But if I do, I know how I'm going to feel. I know I'm not going to feel incredible afterwards. I know I'm not going to, it's going to take a few days for me to recover from that. And I know what the sugar is doing to my body. So, um, body image, everything like that. I mean, I got the body of my dreams by not counting calories, not counting macros. I don't have any calculators on my phone that talk about food. None of that. None of that. Like, none of that. I don't think about how many calories are in my ribeye. I take a big hunk of butter, I stick it on there, I put my salt on there, I eat it until I am super full, and then I'm just done. And then I'm like, okay, on to the next thing. And the great thing about that, and Eric, I think you can attest this too, is that you never feel bloated. I never,
Yeah.
ever, 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 ever get bloated. And that is the best feeling ever, as someone who came from, always having the little Buddha belly. Like, I was always bloated and always like gassy and bloated, always burping and whatnot. Like, to now not having those issues, it's like it's a whole new world. Like, being out on the soccer field without having gas and bloating is like, that is next level. Like, you can focus on the game and not focus on how bad you feel.
Mhm. Yeah, it's such a nice feeling to not have that bloating anymore. And people are like, "Wait, you eat like so much meat and eggs and bacon. Like, how are you not bloated?" I'm like, "Because like it's easily digestible." Like, and you get a nice body composition without really trying. Like, I'm sure you get the question like, "Oh, well, what do you do for workouts?" And you're just like, "Not
Mm,
much really." Like, but
and also
I have muscles, I have a six pack, and it's like it's literally just getting the protein and the healthy fats and eating till full, and then your body composition is just a nice byproduct. It's not really the focus. You're just like, "Oh, sweet." Like, I feel good. I feel athletic, and
I don't I don't know if
it's
you
amazing. That's why I'm trying to share this with everyone, like,
um,
it's just easy.
I don't know if you experienced this, but I've been getting so many girls coming to me, and I had this happen too, where actually I went up a cup size. So my waist went down, and then my glutes and my chest went up.
Yeah,
So
yeah, same, yeah.
it's like I was like, "This is, like, better than plastic surgery." So, like, I can't gatekeep this, like, all these people need to know, like, this is amazing, like, your face changes,
Mhm.
your like, I'm like, "Why are people going and spending all this money going to foreign countries and almost dying,
Yeah,
getting these BBLs and stuff when, like, you can literally get that from eating this way and living this way?" Like, it
yeah,
blows my mind. I always tell my girls, I'm like, "We're always getting hotter every day," like, hotter and better and faster and, like, it's just all these things
yeah.
get better and better and better, and I think this is important for women to know, especially teenagers.
Mhm,
There's this whole, like, weird world, and I think this is just how we function where people think, "Oh, aging is such a bad thing." Like,
mm,
"Oh, aging is, this and that." No, 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 no. We are gonna unsubscribe to that notion, and we are going to focus on getting better and better and better and wiser and just hotter and all around better year to year to year to
mhm,
year. Because I will tell you, I look better now than I did in my early 20s. And that is really reassuring to so many people out there who are struggling. I know a lot of women, myself included. I used to struggle with my body image. I used to struggle with my skin, all these things, and it made me feel so, I don't wanna say unworthy, but I just felt just not pretty, not, I felt like who would wanna be with me, like, I'm kinda like this ugly duckling, I'm not gonna say it like that, but, like, I had all these things that I was insecure about that all went away on this way of eating, on this way of living, that, like, I wish I knew about this sooner, but, like, the thing is that it's never too late, you can change a lot of stuff, don't let anyone tell you that you can't change your body and your mind and your anything. Like, I remember when I got diagnosed with autoimmune, everyone was saying, "Oh, you're gonna be on so many medications for the rest of your life, and it's just gonna get worse, and year to year, you're gonna get worse and worse and worse. You're gonna end up in a wheelchair and blah, 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 blah." I had so many people telling me all this stuff, and I'm the type of person where I'm like, "Just watch. Like, just you watch." I was so motivated to find out what was wrong with me because I wasn't always sick. I was like, "I wasn't always this way. I can get better." Because if I came from being okay to then getting sick, it was something I was doing, and so I knew I could undo it. Somehow I could undo it. So I figured it out, and the thing is you get better looking in the process. So it's like this is, like, the biggest glow up. I know a lot
yeah,
of girls out there on Pinterest trying to find, like, glow up tips. This is the glow up tip. Throw the spinach in the trash,
yeah.
throw the green juice in the trash. We're not gonna do any more juice cleanses. We're not gonna starve ourselves. We're not doing any of that. That's so 1992. Like, we are not doing any of that anymore. Like, we're focusing on eating well and really fueling our bodies and fueling ourselves so that we can have the energy, so that we can be beautiful, so that we can be radiant because healthy skin glows, healthy hair grows, healthy cells give us healthy brain function and everything we need to thrive. So I think there's so much misinformation out there. And I hate seeing dietitians say, eat 400 grams of carbs for breakfast. It's like, and eat your spinach. It's like, you're setting these girls up to feel bad about themselves, and I do not subscribe to that. Like, that is not something that I want anyone to ever go through.
I love that we're talking about this because a lot of girls are just under the impression that, like, in order to look good and be this image of lean and ripped, you have to, like, kill yourself in the gym, you have to, like, starve yourself, and I know you eat a lot and you eat till full, you get the nutrients you need, but how many calories a day are you having on average? Just to put things into perspective for people, because gone are the days where us women eat just 1,500 a day. I'm sorry, that's not enough. That is like just so meager. But how much would you say you're having on like an active day?
Well, I think all depends, and, like, to be honest, I don't count,
Right.
just don't feel like it, but here's the thing is I'm pretty sure if I were to count, my breakfast this morning was 3 patties from Five Guys with cheese and bacon, and it had a lettuce wrap, and I picked the lettuce off, and I just ate the patties, but, on average, I eat probably I would say probably like 2 pounds of meat a day, give or take, and sometimes I'll do a little bit of liver. I'm very strict on the no carb. I know a lot of people listening to this are not gonna be that way.
Yeah.
So in nature, it's a lot less calories. So what I do to kinda compensate that, because I don't want to get skinny. Obviously, I'm prepping for pregnancy. I actually wanna keep some subcutaneous fat, not visceral, but subcutaneous fat. So what I do is I'll eat more butter. I'll eat more kefir, which is a dairy that's very probiotic rich. So any of the girlies out there who are listening who want a little bit of that glow, that skin glow, and actually the anti-acne benefits, kefir is amazing. You can get it at stores, just get the unsweetened kind. It tastes absolutely awful when you first try it, but just keep going, and I promise you're gonna become addicted to it because the benefits are amazing. But that's what I do. So I'd probably say, Erica, to answer your question, anywhere from like 2,500 to maybe 3,000 calories a day. Like I eat quite a bit. And if I'm eating dairy, it's probably right around that, like, 3,000 mark.
Yeah, that's what I figured, and yeah, I mean, it's so inspiring, and I can definitely agree that when you get the nutrients you need, your relationship with food and with your body just naturally improves as a result of that, and I think that's true food freedom when you're not, like, constantly, like, calculating and thinking about your next snack or meal. It's it's, like, more intuitive. I dietitians talk about intuitive eating all the time, but it's more intuitive to eat and want the things that your body, like, really needs and gets energy from and gets a better mood from, and I think this term, like, intuitive eating, even, like, eat a balance or moderation, they're just so vague, and it's like, okay, no one truly knows definition of all this, and a lot of girls who try to moderate, it turns into all out binges some days and just this endless cycle of food obsession and like, oh, should I have this brownie? Oh no, that's bad. And then they like
Mhm.
have a bunch of like cookies and then they feel guilty the next day. And it's just they're just going in circles, and yeah, I hate to see it. I The moderation crowd needs to just stop, and you just need to pick a path, and your brain naturally changes, and you crave these nutrient-dense animal-based foods, and then the vegetables and the nature's carbs that you can tolerate.
Well, I think Anthony said this best. I think he was the one who said this, but he was saying that you can't have drugs in moderation. Like, sugar is a drug, it's highly addictive. So it's like when you say everything in moderation, like, I'm saying dietitians, not you, but, like, when you're saying, like, "Oh, you're a dietitian and you're, like, Cheetos and Reese's and all that," like, people who are susceptible to the addiction of sugar, which is pretty much everyone, but
Yeah.
I was really addicted to processed foods, like, I loved Reese's peanut butter cups, like, there's something about the chocolate and the peanut butter and the salt, it had me by the little like, I was just addicted, and it's like, I couldn't eat just one. There's no way I could even go there and eat, like, half of one, like, go to the grocery store and get, like, half of it and then cut it up. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, when you're eating meat, you eat until you're satiated because it's real food, your body can, like, actually, take it in and be like, "Okay, this is, like this is real food, like, this is nourishment." But a Reese's, that's just a drug, it's just sugar, so it's like it's literally a hit to the brain, and then you want more and more and more, so that everything in moderation just does not work. Like, I have yet to see someone actually be successful and not be completely food obsessed
Yeah.
with everything in moderation. I'll just tell you guys this because I think this is important. So I was in the bodybuilding world.
Mm.
If it fits your macros is massive in bodybuilding.
I was in
And
that world too. It's insane. People are doing cheat meals all the time and just binging. It's really bad.
it's
It's an eating disorder, like, waiting to happen.
1,000,000%. And a lot of those girls, Erica, end up getting eating disorders because they go through this restricting phase where they're eating like 2 Cocoa Puffs and they're like, "Oh, it fits my macros." And then they get off. You'll see it at shows. If you go to a show and you see backstage, these girls have cookies like the size of their head and they're eating these cookies after their show, and they're eating pizza, and, like, they're glorifying it on social media. You can see it on social media. They go out to eat, and they eat all this stuff. These are teeny girls, and they're going out there, and they're eating, like, all this,
Yeah.
like, processed food, and it's so many of those girls, I'm friends with so many of them still, and they deal with horrid eating disorders and all sorts of stuff because they go through this cycle of the if it fits your macros where you're restricting, 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 and then you get one refeed day and you just want to eat everything in sight. And it's like, that's not any way to live. You're literally chained to the food and you're not getting proper nutrition. So you're going to end up with issues later on down the road. Like,
Mhm.
which one's easier? Eating high fat, delicious steaks and things like that, and, like,
Yeah.
enjoying the food and not having to worry about it, or restricting everything and then being like, "Well, everything in moderation." It's like, this side is just it makes so much more sense. This is intuitive eating. This is
Yeah.
idiotic eating. It's like, it's not even you can't be intuitive when you're addicted to food. You just can't. I don't
Oh
see how
my
that
gosh, that you opened a can of worms there because, yeah, I used to dabble in bikini shows, and after the competition, like, everyone would go to, like, Cheesecake Factory, Pizza Hut, and it was called, like, post-competition blues when you just, like, gain so much weight from, like, relapsing and, like, bringing all this stuff back in after being so clean for so long, but the clean eating they were doing was not enjoyable because it was these nutrition plans that were like foods we didn't even like asparagus, tuna, lean chicken breast. Oh my gosh, like I hate lean chicken breast so much now. But with like a ribeye, or like I get to eat bacon, or I get to have eggs with grass fed butter, I get to have salmon and oysters. Like that is more enjoyable to me. And that's not restrictive. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of people listening are like, "Well, Celia and Erica, you guys have such a restrictive diet, but what's restrictive about our hormonal health being better? What's restrictive about us having energy for the day and being on fire until 9 PM at night? What's restrictive about having less painful periods? What's restrictive about aging in reverse and having clear skin and not getting Botox and all these treatments? Like, what's restrictive about that?" I have yet to have someone answer that question for me.
Well, I always say, I'm like, this isn't because a lot of people say this is an eating disorder. They're like, "Oh, you don't eat," they'll say, and I'm like, the real eating disorder is knowing a food affects you in a negative way and eating it anyways. That
Right.
is an eating disorder. If you literally eat something and it makes you feel awful and your skin breaks out and you get sick and blah blah blah, and you still choose to eat that, like, there's something, like, not mentally okay. Like, do you also put your hand on the stove and let it burn just to see, like, what happens? Like, people who say things like that, I'm just like, "What planet are you from?" Like, it makes
Right.
no sense to me because it's like you're literally eating something that is hurting your body, but you're justifying it saying, "Oh, everything in moderation." That's an eating disorder. That's really what it is eating something that affects you really adversely and still doing it anyways. Like, that's not like, it's
Yeah,
weird.
well, this is going to be a hot take, but any addict will find any way to justify their behavior.
Ooh.
That to me could be what's going on. And look, like we're being hard on people here and sharing this because it's like when you do finally feel good and you're vibrant and you're just enjoying life every day, it's like we can't help but share this information against what people have been taught all these years, and you really have to be disciplined with your nutrition and really just sift through the noise. And I just get so frustrated, like, seeing some things online that I see and people being like, "Well, there's no bad foods, we should be flexible, moderation this, moderation that," and I'm like, I don't know if this is the greatest advice for an unhealthy population. And I'm not just talking obesity, I'm talking like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm talking PCOS and these like silent things going on with even like the girl who is skinny and lean and you think she's healthy, but she's really not. That's what
Mhm.
I'm really talking about with all this. And it's
Well,
just
I think you're
frustrating.
you're talking about, like, mitochondrial damage, like, it's cellular damage is really, like, you can be thin. I was thin when I was pretty sick,
Yeah.
and it wasn't my mental health was completely in the trash. I had all these neurological issues, like the tremors, which they couldn't diagnose as seizures because they didn't have me, hooked up to the machine,
Yeah.
at the time that I was having them. But all these things that I went through, it's like I was not obese. Like I was not,
Right.
that's a very important thing to point out, Erica, is that you don't we're not talking about obesity. We're talking about like cellular dysfunction to where you're having issues, to where you're having skin issues, period issues, PCOS. PCOS is very sad. And I don't think many people understand that our infertility rates have like gone so far up. And like in our age, we're seeing it a lot because a lot of my friends can't get pregnant. They're having to go to specialists and go to IVF and inject themselves with all these, you know, hormones in order to have a kid. And that's not always going to work either. So it's like, I really hope that people take that seriously because it's a serious thing. Like you want to keep your health for your future, for your everything, for having kids, for being able to work, for being able to do all these things, you need to be healthy. So like we're not talking about just like weight. This is like beyond that. This is like a whole other thing. But they were saying that like I think it's 92% of the population is metabolically unhealthy. Like that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. So telling 92% of people who are already metabolically unhealthy that Twinkies and Pop-Tarts and Cheetos and Skittles are good for you is like basically like so it's so evil. It really is it's so awful. It's really awful because these people just want to feel better. Everyone just wants to feel better at the end of the day. And to be going through something that awful and being told, "Oh, I mean, I've seen cancer dietitians, oncology dietitians telling people to eat sugar and telling people to eat M&Ms and Cheetos and Skittles because at least you can keep the weight on and that sugar doesn't cause cancer." Okay, but sugar definitely feeds cancer and sugar is not good for cancer. So why are we telling cancer patients to eat all these processed food? Like it's almost to me, it almost feels like so wrong. It just feels very wrong that all these dietitians out there are saying like, oh, everything in moderation. And they're actually pushing a lot of the Cheerios and all of that, which I think you saw the Cheerios thing where it said that it's now being linked to infertility and cancers and all of that. We knew this all along, and now there's studies coming out on it, and these dietitians are still pushing it. And I'm like, who who's paying you? Like, who's
Well,
hiring you?
yeah, and also I think people also need to ask the question who's funded a lot of the epidemiological nutrition studies in the past and what's the agenda behind there. And one thing I do want to ask you, so a lot of people would be like, "Oh my gosh, like you guys are like fear mongering around food and like one thing won't kill you." And I do agree with that. Like having
Mhm.
something like every now and then not gonna kill you, like, it doesn't mean you're gonna get cancer, so don't think that, but just know yourself and if it leads to, like, an all-out binge, because some people can't have something from time to time. Some people have that, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be ravenous," and, like, go off the rails. So that's my opinion on that, but what do you think when people are like, "Oh, well, you guys are fear-mongering with the seed oils and the ultra processed and the sugar," like, because I get that all the time.
So I actually don't get that a lot because I think I've talked about this a lot too, is that I never want people to be scared of anything. Like I want you to understand what it's doing to your body. So there's a big difference between just putting something out there and being like, this is bad, um, and just leaving it at that. So I think I put on my stories today where someone was asking, "Oh, are limes bad?" And I said, there's no such thing as like a bad food. Like it's not like, oh, good and bad, not like when we actually understand the chemical reactions in our bodies and we understand what it's doing in our body and we understand what it's doing for us and our cellular health, we then get to make a choice. We then get to make an informed choice. And so the reason why I'm so passionate about talking about all this is that I want people to be able to make informed choices. If you want to go out and you want to have a pizza and you want to go out and have beer and cake, like by all means, like, but you'll know, okay, this isn't probably the best thing to eat every week. This isn't the best thing for me to eat all the time. And if someone's dealing with chronic health issues like I was and they're desperate and they're really desperate to get better, they can find my information and they'll be like, "Oh, I can make these changes and feel better." So I think there's different degrees of it. And like you were saying, if you have it every now and then, it's not the end of the world. Like I'm going on a cruise in July for my birthday. Am I gonna probably eat a seed oil? Probably. Like I actually showcased that the last cruise I was on. I go cruising quite a bit. But I went on the Virgin cruise and everything's cooked in seed oils. And I was joking about it. I'm like, this has seed oils, this has seed oils. I really don't wanna put that stuff in my body, but if I'm somewhere where it's inevitable and I have to eat something that has a little seed like, I know that I'm clean so much of the time that, like, every now and then a little exposure probably not gonna be the end of the world. So it's not a thing of fear mongering, it's more a thing of do your best and do what feels right for you as long as you have the proper education. And that's where the whole dietitian saying all these things that are just not true, that's where that's an issue because people are then given this permission slip like, hey, go eat Cheetos all day long. Hey, it's okay to go get Papa John's and Pizza Hut all day long. And the thing is when we are exposed to that 24/7, then people are like, why am I obese? Why does my skin look like crap? Why do I feel awful? Why, like, no one understands why they feel so bad, and it's like, yeah, the person who is giving you the information doesn't even eat that stuff anyways, and if they do, they're probably throwing it up because they have an eating disorder, like, let's be real. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's be real. Everyone who eats a whole foods diet, who's eating, in nature feels better. I don't know a single person who doesn't look better, feel better. People who are eating highly processed food, they may be able if they have good genetics, they can get away with that for maybe a decade, but what happens when you look at the hometown prom cheerleader girl who was like, super fit in high school and then like she eats whatever she wants and blah 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 and eating cheese fries and then like 20 years later she's like morbidly obese and everyone's like what happened to her? It's like she just her genetics got caught up with the lifestyle she was living. It's not her genetics per se, it's the lifestyle being exposed to her genetics. But she could go for, 30 years before putting on the weight, and now it all accumulates. So I mean, it's really this thing where you wanna just make the best decisions for your health. Most people watching this are probably people who if you've made it this far into this podcast, you're probably someone who's concerned with optimal performance, being the best athlete you can be, and you cannot be the best athlete you can be if you feel awful. You just can't. You can't perform the way that you could optimally perform if you feel bad. So why put subpar fuel in the Lamborghini, like they say, like it's better to put the supreme fuel in and be able to function optimally. But there's no fear mongering. It's really a decision. And I explain it just like that. You can put the cheap gas in and it will still get you from point A to point B. But you might have a breakdown here or there. You can put the middle gas in, which is going to be better. It's the better gas. It has, maybe a couple more spinach here and some kale there, a little bit better. You're going to feel better. You can put Supreme in, or you can put an even better fuel in there. And there's different fuel levels. It's the same for the human body. We have different choices we make every single day. And if you keep choosing the optimal fuel, you're going to feel really good. You're going to perform really good. You're going to look really good. People are going to be like, what's your secret? Where do you go for your Botox? And you're going to be like, oh, I don't even know because I don't get it. Like, but if you eat these cheap things, you're going to eventually break down. So it's like, what way do you want to go? And I think when your meter is constantly more on this side, you're going to feel better. So it's just a choice. There's literally no fear mongering in my world. It's just education. And I do make fun of seed oils and I do make fun of sugar, but
And the memes are just fantastic, and I have an idea for your next meme. It should be butter
ooh.
is the new Botox. Butter butter and bacon.
I love it, Erica. I love it. That's my next meme.
It's just so nice, to be free from treatments and save money there, and
Oh
yeah,
my god, the
just
money. Can we just talk about how much money we save?
oh, it's insane. Yeah, yeah, and I was talking about this with another guest about, who does mainly, like, animal-based with some, like, produce and potatoes here and there, but she's like, "Yeah, our grocery bills just, like, went completely down," and we were shocked, but we're like, "Dang, this is just another great benefit added to the list."
I mean, all the money you save on Botox and treatment, and, like, I'm like, "I could buy another Chanel for this." Like,
You really could.
I
You could go
could
on a
buy a new
cruise. You could go on a cruise.
go on a cruise, eat some seed oils on a cruise. You could do
Yeah.
so much with the money that you save. It's so wild to me. I mean, I haven't done anything to my face in since November was the last time I got Botox, and I was like, "I'm not doing it anymore."
Yep.
But I decided I'm gonna go in for PRP, and I'm, like, scared to see the price tag on that because 'cause I'm like, it's probably gonna be they're expensive. It's like, what? Like, 400, $500, and people have to do this almost every month, like, just to keep up with their and I'm like, "I don't know how everyone's affording the Botox and the lip filler and the like, how are you guys doing it?"
They're
Because
not, like
I'm low maintenance. I even stopped coloring my hair, like, I'm not
Yep.
doing any of that anymore, and I save so much money that I'm like, "This is great." Like, I can spend it in other areas of my life, traveling and things that really matter versus being in a Botox office getting neurotoxin put in my face, you know?
Right.
And no shade to anyone who does that, that is totally your choice. I will never say I'm not gonna ever do it again, maybe in the future, I don't know, but for now, I'm happy saving all this money, and I'm happy with how my skin looks and how I like that my face moves. And then we've talked about it too,
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
you get Botox and then you start getting wrinkles in other areas because your muscles have to overcompensate. So it's like, at the
Right.
end of the day, not only are we saving the money, but we're saving our face from other things that can happen to it. Like we don't know the long-term effects of Botox. And there's something coming out, I don't know if you saw it, Erica, but there was a new study that came out that said filler is causing cancer.
Yeah, I saw something like that. That's something to look into for sure for a lot
So
of
you're
women. Yep.
like, and I'm so big on lymph. Like, I don't know if you know
Yep.
a ton about lymph, but lymph is so, so, so important. And fillers clogging the lymph portals to the face. So you can actually get more swelling.
Mm.
So if you're someone who's a young girl and you're thinking about getting all this filler, like, let me just tell you, listen to Erica and her, advice. Listen to me, like, listen to all of us who've been through it. It's like, it's not worth it to go down that path when you can just fix what you're doing with diet. And I will tell you,
Yep.
eliminating seed oils, processed sugar, or processed food and sugar is the top hacks. If you eliminate sugar from your diet and really eliminate sugar, I'm talking breads, everything like that, you will change your skin. Your face will no longer be puffy. You're not going to look like, a puffer fish the next morning when you wake up. It's a game changer. I wish I knew about this when I was in high school because it would have saved me so much agony, so much. And I all the money I spent on what was it, Proactive and
Yep.
all these other solutions that never did anything but dry out my skin and they gave me enlarged pores. It's like, just don't go down that route.
You're so right. Like I wish we knew this back in the day. I would have totally like been more like diligent with nutrition and it's so sad and yeah, I just hope everyone listening, I mean, you made it to the end, so congrats. We went down some rabbit holes today, but Celia, thanks for sharing your story and I'm going to link your Instagram in the caption below. So everyone please follow Celia. She has like the best memes. She's hilarious and if you're someone who like has suffered or is suffering now with an autoimmune or like any chronic illness, like her information is really great. She does have a lot of like research behind what she does as well. And if you're also an athlete who's looking for a sport performance plan, I always refer out to registered dietitian Michelle Hearn and also Cynthia Monteleone. They're two of my favorites. They still incorporate carbs, but not as many that are usually recommended, and carbs where people don't really have like gut problems with, and they're really all about like nature's carbs, like blueberries, colored potatoes, different types of vegetables, but they are animal based. They love red meat, which I'm just a huge fan of for female athletes, especially to get the B vitamins, magnesium, folate is in there as well, selenium, iron. I mean, so many benefits. So I'll link Cynthia and Michelle in the show notes as well. And we hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. And Celia, thank you again.